Hey, Shimmer. Hey, Shimmer.
Welcome to our bonus segment about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1. I'm David Chen here with Christian Spicer today and Patrick Klepek. This segment will contain full spoilers for the video game. So if you do not want to know everything that happens in The Last of Us Part 2, do not watch or listen to this. Full spoilers. We're in full spoilers mode, but there's so much to discuss about how The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1 made different decisions in the game. So Patrick Klepek, let's talk about the biggest thing that changed in the game, which is in the video game The Last of Us Part 2, you are introduced to the character of Abby. You start playing as this character, Abby. You don't even know who the hell this character is.
Yep.
Right? And you're like, why am I controlling this character? Like, it doesn't make any sense. This is weird. She is looking for someone where we don't know who it is she's looking for or why she's looking for him or them. And her motives are shrouded in mystery for, I would say, a couple hours after she's introduced. The show does not do that. It's like right away, Abby is looking for Joel. She's trying to kill him because she is somehow connected to one of the people that died in the Fireflies. Now,
there's something really interesting. Correct me if the two of you picked up on. I didn't want to make it a point with my wife because I'm like really sensitive with spoilers with her and what I know and what I might be implying by asking her questions. But in the first episode, we get the scene with Abby and her crew, and there's lots of crosses, but they don't clarify.
Correct.
Like what? But
they do not explain her relationship to the person.
But if you keep watching the episode, and HBO always does a thing where you get a teaser for the next episode, which we skip past, but then we love watching like the kind of mini podcast that they do behind the episode. And immediately when they cut to like Caitlin Dever talking about like her character's like, oh yeah, Joel killed my father. And it's like, whoa, okay.
Boo,
and I didn't bring it up with. That just seems like a continuity, or I don't know how you would call it, I guess a continuity error of like order of like how they're revealing things, because the show is deliberate not saying that, but then it kind of gets slipped in the behind the scenes part. And I didn't even ask my wife. I was like, hopefully that one just sort of slid past. And then, because I feel like that's going to be a big moment for her like later on. But I was pretty sure like that was not mentioned explicitly in the first episode. I
agree that this behind the episode gave stuff away they shouldn't have. I think this is a really fascinating decision, right? And I think let me put this out there. You guys tell me what you think of this. I think the reason they did this is because you can be engaged playing a character you don't know, but it's much harder to be engaged with this character. Like if you had like Caitlin Dever the whole season, she's like looking for Joel. When she got, or you don't even know who she's looking for. Maybe she's looking for someone, and we don't know who she's looking for. Like the audience would be like, "What the hell's going on? Like this makes sense. Why are we spending time with this character? This makes no sense." It's a lot easier to have someone play a character that they don't know than to watch a character who you don't know and you don't know what their motivations are. Do you know what I mean? And I think that really came to light for me when I was watching this. Of like, oh, that's why they just revealed it right away. Now, very different effect than playing the game. But yeah, does that make sense to you guys? Does that track for you guys? What do you think?
It does. I think what I love so much about video games is the interactivity brings us into the character. Even if it's Mario, something without much of a story, right? You being that character, you put some of yourself in that character as you play. And so I think you're right, Dave. In the video game, you playing as Abby, you are immediately rooting for her.
Yeah.
You're rooting for her because she is you.
Yeah,
if Abby fails,
you're her. Yeah.
yeah. If Abby fails, your game's over, you die. And I think the way the game handles its, reveal of who Abby is and what she's doing after you've spent time as her, rooting for her, is something that is pretty dang unique to video games.
Yes.
You have this moment of like, oh, crap. You kind of re-examine what you've done, how you feel about this character you've spent so much time with. And I think that's harder to do in a non-interactive format. Certainly there are ways that you can do it. There are certainly shows and movies that have great twists where Sixth Sense, you don't know what's going on until the end, right? Like you're still able to kind of root for these characters. But I feel like I don't know if that would have been right for pacing for this show. And I think that's the biggest, I mean, yes, the cold open is a big change, but I think for me, the biggest change, gentlemen, is how they are structuring the timeline of this show versus the video game. The video game, we don't see that full dance scene until much later.
Till nearly the end of the game, right?
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. The game opens. First of all, we get a little scene of Joel and Ellie that's like takes place sometime after the first game, where they talk about the guitar. Then cut to 4 years later in the game. And then when the game opens 4 years later, the scene in the barn with Dina and Ellie and the bigot guy has just happened. But then we don't actually see that scene until the very, like, close to the end of the game. Whereas it's right in the first episode in this game. So, Christian, what do you feel like is the net effect of that for you?
I think it's playing with the emotional load and when those things happen. Again, because of the structure of the game, you're allowed to feel for and root for these characters. And I think the moment with Abby, I don't know. Am I spoiling for the game? I can say what happens.
Yes, we're
Say whatever you want. Joel dies
Yeah.
in the game. Is my wife here?
I'm immune. When Abby kills Joel, that is such a strong moment, and you feel Ellie's rage, and you are like, oh, you just killed my best friend, the player, right? Because you had this connection with Joel from the first game. I am on Team Ellie. Here we go. And then as it analyzes her rage, perhaps misguided, and the way she left Joel, I think learning that interaction later really hits home. It really, again, forces you to re-examine what you've been doing. And is she doing this for Joel, or is she doing this because she messed up and she never got to say what she should have said? Because we only have this moment, dear listener, that you and I are having might be our only moment. Like nothing is guaranteed. And I think the way it structures the timeline is very effective in that way in the game. And I don't know if it would be as effective for a TV show or if people would just feel lost and not sure what's going on.
Klepek, what do you think about these changes?
Oh, I think this is the show pulling a punch, but not necessarily.
Also, again, I love the game, and you guys hated it, so go ahead, tear me apart.
Well, I know I love the game until like past the open world Seattle area, and then just anyway, we don't have to relive it. David and I are gonna be doing this every week. Nick, you'll be gone. Plenty of time for David and I to do this part. And I've been fascinated. Like a part of why I want to replay the game, or at least. Well, I don't know how much part of the game I'll be able to replay to like track with the season at this pace. It might be like 4 hours of the game before I could just stop. But it's
right, yeah.
It's with the pace we're going. Like Joel's death is the like penultimate episode. Like I think it's going to be like
Patrick is predicting Joel is not going to die till the end of this season. Whereas in the game, it's like the thing that starts the game.
I think that is going to be like he dies in episode 6. Episode 7 deals with the aftermath. And then the like inciting event of like the game is just the cliffhanger for the subsequent season. But
I don't know. Pedro's work schedule says maybe otherwise. He was a busy man.
Well, that's why they have to establish the ensemble so that he can be, whatever. We'll see. I think if they weren't going to do it at the very beginning, I'm inclined to believe it happens like at the very end. Anyway, it's all to say the emotional state you are in, sure, you can generate sort of like empathy with a character you don't know when you're controlling them, and they establish that immediately with Abby just by the sheer fact that you are interacting and controlling this character and determining whether they live or die. But like so critical to the inciting moment in the video game is that you don't understand Abby.
Yeah.
And that you just understand Ellie, and that you're so fucking mad at Abby for what she does. Because like, how could this be proportionate? Like, in what world is like, does this make any lick of sense? And it's trying to center you with Ellie's rage. It is taking everything from that first game and just hitting it with a golf club until it shatters into a million pieces. And the show undercuts like the ability for that to land in the exact same way. Whether I'm not saying it won't be emotional. It won't be interesting. It won't be gratifying. It won't be like heart-wrenching. But from the jump, the show is telling you she has a reason to be pissed at Joel.
Right.
She has a legitimate grievance against this man. And again, as the behind the scenes stuff, like we'll see how quickly they get to the actual reveal that like it's her father that was the doctor that puts his hands up. By revealing that information, or at least seeding some of it into the brain of the viewer early on, again, it's either pulling a punch or it's the show being a little more human than and less nihilistic than the game. I don't know, but it's a really important change to give any information on Abby and her motivations early on ahead of the consequences of her decisions.
Especially because it's a 1-2 punch in the game, because you not only don't know who Abby is or what she's doing, but you also don't know exactly what she's doing when she kills Joel, who literally just saved her life.
Right. Joel saves her life, and then she kills Joel. You don't know why she wanted to kill Joel, like at that point in the game. Even at the moment that she's killing Joel, you don't understand like why she's doing it. And so the fact that way before that moment in the show, we are already revealed that information, it does make for a very different effect. I think we'll have to wait until the Joel killing scene to really decide like whether or not this is a better decision or it makes more sense for the show. I do want to acknowledge something else. There's a few topics I wanted to discuss. One of them is, Abby in the game has a very different physical appearance than in the show, right? And she is basically built like a tank. She has massive upper body strength. Mm-hmm. And what's cool about that is this is a person who has been refining their body to exact revenge for years. Like, I think it's many years. It's not just 5 years. It's like many, many years.
Her stealth takedown in the game, which they established from the jump, is like... Ellie's always running around with, like a knife, or Joel's got a knife to take out, she just like, I'm just going to wrestling move suffocate you to the ground. Yeah. Like, she is just that, like, she's just that strong. It is such a meaningful difference between the like kind of like frail looking Ellie that we are often exposed to in the game.
Yeah. And I think that there's not that many actors that could actually that have that physique and then are also really good actors. That could pull this off
if they wanted. I think they made a choice.
But I think they did it this way because I think Caitlin Dever and Bella Ramsey actually look like evenly matched to each other. Like you could imagine if they had a fight, that would be a close fight. And I think they needed to do it that way, is my guess.
But they're not evenly matched in the game. I mean,
that's true.
Abby beats the shit out of Ellie.
Right.
Abby wins, and it's, you get a rematch and, different takes on it, but they're not evenly matched. And I'm curious if in this show they're trying to present Ellie as perhaps the better fighter. Like right now we've seen her as the one honing her body and honing her fighting and being this, wild animal barely contained. And
I think it's to make it more plausibly even. Like in the game, there would be no question that Abby would completely win, right? But
squish like a bug,
right? But like in the show now, there's like some tension, that might there might be an even match there. Sorry, Christian, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's great. I mean, I think it's different tension because I think part of the tension in the game is how is this scrawny kid going to take down the Hulk, and it's going to be just anger. And can she rage her way through it? In the end of the game, the fight at the beach, I mean, it is just absolutely brutal. But at that point, Abby is a different person. Abby has dare I say completed her journey, her character's journey. And Ellie is about to.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, well said. Well said, Christian.
And so it's a different situation. And I'm curious now, what that moment looks like. I did watch a little bit of this season on The Last of Us at the end of the episode, because the way the episode ends, you don't see Abby's physique. I was like, oh, did this actor, pull a Kumail and they shot, is it like, do we have ripped Kumail now in this? And it doesn't look like she did, which I'm not saying she should or anyone should put their stress on their body. But just based on the end of the first episode, I wasn't sure if we'd see her buffer in this 5-year gap, but it doesn't look like we do.
Yeah. All right. Another big change that's made in the show is the character of Gail. Not a character in the game. One could consider this a very minor spoiler. So, like, spoiler, even if you've already been spoiled in the game. But like, my understanding is Gail will be like a significant character, and that there will we'll see more of Gail and learn more about the situation with Joel and her ex-husband as the season goes on.
Eugene, Eugene in the video game is like, he's this kind of recluse, like electronics tinkerer. You come across kind of one of his secret hideouts where he was growing weed, and like it's where Ellie and Dina have kind of like really confess their feelings for each other, have like their first sort of like sexual encounter with one another. It's like this really big moment for the two of them. But Eugene's weed factory is like it's just a hideaway as they're like escaping a blizzard. It's just sort of like many things in The Last of Us, is like you are often coming across scenes of the past and putting together what happened, who these people were, based on what you can find, the notes you can find, the art that's like put in there by Naughty Dog and their teams. My suspicion is the Bill episode. They've already said there's another one of these where they're taking sort of a another character and giving that, like, really expanding out who they were. My suspicion is Eugene, like, because it really fits like the timetable that we're in this season. A character mysteriously killed off screen, and boy, sure sounds like Joel might have fucked up again. I strong feelings that like it's not as clean as like he just got bit and Joel had to put him down.
I don't know. I think it could be like that. But yeah, I think Eugene will be a very different character this season than he was in the game, right?
Yeah.
I think that's
it's the bigot episode, Patrick. That's what they focus on. 1 hour. 1 hour with the
sympathy
bigot.
for a bigot. Episode 5.
You have to stand alone with just that guy. Yeah. So that's another big change. The scene where Joel says, "I saved her," right? There's a very similar scene that happens in the game. It's actually the opening of the game, right? Is him explaining to Tommy what actually happened at the end of season 1. And then Tommy says, "I'll take that to my grave," basically. And
Game one.
Yeah, game 1. That's right.
Not season 1.
Yeah. Well, both, right? Anyway, but now, like, that has been transplanted into this other conversation with Gail, and so I'm really curious, like, how that's going to evolve. Like, they probably saw some more dramatic possibilities by having it be a different character than Tommy. So we'll see. We'll see if like the whole Eugene Gail thing pays off. I suspect with what they did with like Nick Offerman's character in the first season, like that they have some interesting plans for that. So I'm excited about that, but so far, like, not really enough to go on to decide whether it's worth it or not. I found it to be really interesting. The supermarket scene, it's like really close, like between the supermarket scene, the settlement, the barn scene, like they really recreated the scenes from the game in very with high levels of fidelity. They even use the same music from the game for that scene where they're dancing and kissing each other. And I just wanted to remark that I thought the sort of fidelity to the original game was really impressive. Like, I was like, wow, they really, like, shot for shot. Some of the shots are like POV behind Ellie's head. Like, some of the shots are identical to.
They do it without making it feel like a video game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
Mhm.
like I never. Being experimental with your, camera work and you're adapting a video game, like, fine. Like, but I usually find that stuff to be like really goofy when you're trying to just emulate like the way a video game camera works. What I find is like what I've always appreciated in The Last of Us is like finding ways to like, hey, like that's just a good shot. Like, let's just keep that, and it both works like effectively in the show and also ends up being kind of an homage, like in and of itself. I mean, there's like a whole, like one of the first puzzles in The Last of Us Part 2 is like the first safe that you have to crack is you have to find the birth date of a dog on an employee of the month board.
Right.
And in the show, they keep the pan over to the employee of the month board that has the dog like there. there's no safe to be, solved. They excise all that sort of like gameplay stuff, but that's a moment where it's like, all right, like this is a fun little sequence for that players will recognize that otherwise just functions as sort of, world building for anyone just watching it as a television show, but it doesn't scream video game Easter egg. Like it is,
Right.
it is just really smart.
It's very organic. Yeah,
It's very
in
organic.
The show. And
here's
similarly,
Nolan North on the beach in Uncharted.
Right.
Get it?
Right.
And similarly, they use the bottles to distract the clicker, and that is a extremely common mechanic from the game that you need.
Did they not do that in season 1 at all? Not a single time?
I don't recall. It's very possible they did. I don't remember. But anyway, whatever it is, it's definitely an allusion to the game.
Yes, yes, it is. It is like, I when that shot happened, like it kept an extra beat, which like felt like a nod to like game fans. Like, you do this 900,000 times when you play the video game. But I was like, did they really never do that in the first season? They might not have. In
the game, it's Dina and Ellie go off by themselves to do the patrol. And there's not this whole crew of other people. There's this other woman named Kat that they have a relationship with. And I'm like, I am curious, like, why did they add those people? Like, what was the point of that? We don't know yet. But
to be irritating. I think it just tracks with they want. Why are Dina and Ellie like so immediately attracted? Like, because they're the same person in many ways, or like different, and like they're bucking of authority. And I think the presence of those other characters, sure, you could see them going into the grocery store as quote reckless as the outside viewer. I think those other characters exist to sort of remind you, like, this is not how we like. The reason Jackson has survived this long is like brave people following the rules, and will there be consequences that are like natural extensions of like young kids being young kids? But like, what happens when these two keep pushing those boundaries when you live in a society?
Well, I think you hit on it perfectly with where there'll be consequences for that type of reckless action, because I love that scene in the council where Ellie's like, if you were in Joel, to Tommy, she's like, if you were in Joel, you would have gone in. And he's like, that's different.
And you're telling me what, if you were in Joel, you wouldn't have gone in?
Well, that ain't the same.
Why?
Because it's different.
She's like, how?
Yeah.
And his wife's like,
going, how?
I was on her side on that one. I was like, wait, you shouldn't have gone in either. Like, what are you talking about?
How is that different? But Tommy also, if not directly, definitely passively says, hell yeah, I would have gone in also, and like, so there is, and I don't know if that's going to come back with Joel and Eugene and Tommy, if that was a similar situation that they went in and did something, but this idea of society has rules and we need to follow them for the common good. And Joel also oftentimes representing that, protect our own, but he's also this catalyst for breaking the rules, because it's not I can park in a handicap spot if I want to, because I'm just running into the store to grab some ice. Like I can park on the fire curb because I'm just picking up my kid from school. We live in this world where people are like, oh, it's okay if I do it because I'm doing it because of this. And I think seeing that reflected in Jackson's society and this mirror of Joel, Tommy, and now Ellie, Dina in the show is really has the potential to be really fascinating.
Any other differences we want to mention? I mean, the only other one that really comes to mind that might be worth mentioning is the very end of the episode and like how the reveal plays out in the game versus the show. In the game, you are playing as Abby. Like you're playing as Abby, and then you're playing as Ellie, right? And it's cutting back and forth between the two. And then you're playing as Abby, who's kind of like, I believe what she does is she's like, they see the Jackson settlement, and you don't know why she wants to go in there, like what she wants to find, but you know that it's of importance to her. And then she's like, and her friend, I think Owen, is like, we got to do this carefully because there's like 1,000 people in there, and like we don't want to be in a bad situation. And so she's just like, fuck it, I'm doing it myself. And then she just starts like running towards the settlement, but then gets like attacked by zombies. And then Joel comes in and saves her. And then it's like, hey, guess what? The person she was actually looking for was Joel all along. And it's just like this like shocking reveal. So that's definitely not happening in the show, right? Like however it plays out, it's not going to happen. It's not going to play out in that way because we already know that she's looking for him. So I am really curious. Like, one of the cool things about the game was that Joel's out on patrol. That Abby's like in that area. And then so like when they intersect, it's like, oh my God, it happened. There's like a really satisfying thematic payoff there, or not thematic, like a plot payoff there. And so I'm just curious, like, how that's all going to happen, right? Like, I don't know if you guys have any speculation or thoughts, but I'm curious how the show's going to handle the meeting of Abby and Joel for the first time, and to Patrick's prediction, when it will happen, because I think it happens like 90 minutes into the game.
Yeah,
right?
David, our whole original plan was like, all right, so like we're gonna do like the recaps and reactions to the first episode. Then you and I'll play like 2 hours of the game a week, and like we'll do this breakdown. And then I played the first 2 hours and went, well, that plan's out the window because I don't know if we're gonna get to any of these scenes until the end of this. There's still be differences to talk about, but I guess I'm off. I guess I can stop playing the video game until season 3. I guess sort of where.
Yeah, the video game's like 20 hours long, and it's like this season might not cover more than 2 hours.
Well, I mean, we should, the video game is like really 2 video games, right? It's a split narrative in which there are overlapping layers at the outset, but then primarily becomes a story of Ellie until it becomes a story of Abby, and then everything intersects again at the conclusion of everything. There was no way they were going to do that for the television adaptation, but as a result of how they're mixing the timelines, it just makes like the idea of like playing the game alongside the show, which you could 100% do the first time around.
Absolutely.
You can't like, if you like, well, I guess if you're listening to this, then you don't have to be warned. But like, I almost feel like we should have told people at the end of the first, like, don't go play the video game. Like, if you're going to watch this season, like buyer beware, like about what you're in for if you play the video game, because the order of operations is just happening at a far different pace.
I do think that what is going to happen in the show is throughout the video game, there's a bunch of flashbacks.
Yeah.
To Joel and Ellie's earlier.
I think that's all happening
and
so
those
much
will
earlier.
will all be in season 2.
The spaceship, like even they go in the spaceship, and
there's a shot in the trailer of the spaceship, like that's going to happen. So they're just going to layer in a bunch of flashbacks. And also, I think it's pretty clear from the trailer. We know that there is a moment in the video game where Joel reveals to Ellie what he did at the end of season 1, and that happens in flashback in the game, and I think it will happen in flashback in season 2 as well. Now, I'm really, I'm kind of curious about how that's going to play out, because in the game, right, in the present day of the game, Joel and Ellie are like not really happy with each other, and then you find out it's because Joel had told Ellie earlier, hey, I killed all these people and I didn't let you sacrifice yourself. And then Ellie's like, I'm going to go back to the settlement, but you and I are done. That's what she says in the game. I am curious, like, did that already, like, in the show, do we assume that has already taken place, right? Like, and that's going to be revealed in a flashback? Because it's possible, like, the way the show is playing it, maybe that hasn't happened yet, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she could just be generally pissed at him because she's a teenager. Right? You know what I'm saying?
That's my take. I think like what was flashback in the game might be,
it may be present day,
present day, which will lead to a different emotional space for Ellie. Again, like this is like to have Ellie, if Ellie knows what Joel did, like yes, he's gone, but like that's a very different emotional space for her to be in upon his death than it would be to like in the order that the game kind of like plays all that stuff out. Yeah.
So I'm curious, like when Joel tells Ellie what he did at the end of season 1, is it going to be a flashback or is it going to be like in the present day timeline of the show? Because in the game it was a flashback, and they do have a rift now, like in the show as well. So it's like maybe is that the reason for it? Who knows? I'm curious. Anything else you guys came to mind in terms of comparing the game with the show? And Patrick, I agree with you. I was like playing through the game. I'm like, wow, this is none of this is happening. Like,
I know. I was like, oh, maybe it's a little bit like maybe the shotgun to the leg is like maybe that's like in an hour, and like bam, like oh okay, no, it was like 2 minutes from now. All right, okay.
When Abby shoots Joel in the leg,
yes,
which is an incredible sequence in the game, by the way. It's like,
really there's shocking. No way to go back to that. Like, I mean, it is why, you know, the all the folks involved in the show have talked about. So my prediction that it's like the death is like a little informed speculation, because they've said like a late episode of the season, they said we left a little bit of our souls behind on the set. And I was like, well, then what the fuck? You know, like what else could it be? But like I just can't make. It's the cruel person inside of me. Like I can't fucking wait till you motherfuckers have to experience that yourselves. So at that point, when I was playing the game, I was like it might like 2 hours back with this game. I was like, oh, I miss this world. I miss these characters. Like having a really good time. Like because we aren't at the point where I fell off the narrative that the game was telling. I'm still like I'm reminded why I consider that original game to be like a classic, like and like an all-time great, and like why I have enjoyed revisiting that story in different forms. I mean, and in the punch of that original death, like despite it being in a game that I don't care for, I was like, respect video, like holy shit, man.
It was genuinely shocking, and the way it was done was really well done too, because like we've said, you don't know what's going on, and there's some really brilliant moments when Abby shows up. She basically takes Joel and Tommy back to her house, right? With like all the other Fireflies are staying there, and they're like, "Oh my!" She's like, one of them says to her, like, "Oh my gosh, you really lucked out. You barely escaped those cordyceps," you know. And she's like, "Oh, you have no idea how lucky we are." You know, like it's like, yeah, we really like that, because she's been searching for this guy forever, and then he just shows up randomly. There's this kind of like. And you don't even understand that that's what's happened until later on in the game. Right. But I think, they decided in the show they cannot string the audience along for that long, because people will just get frustrated. They're like, who is this character? Like, why are we following them? It doesn't matter.
I think you would have had to make,
you
know, the choice you would have to make is to just not introduce Abby at all.
Yeah.
Until like you just wouldn't. She would just not be a presence.
And then she just
in
comes
the show.
out of nowhere.
Comes
right?
out of nowhere and like takes Joel out, and like that would be that
or
would be
she's
one
someone
way.
they save, right? They set up that they take in refugee, so Joel goes out and saves a refugee, and then
100%.
Joel's like, "Look, I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing you want me to." Bam,
bam. Yeah,
That's
and
still,
that would have been
honestly you laying it out that way. It feels like that line from the first episode is going to be
right.
Like, oh, he decides to like make progress as a person and like put himself out there, and then he is forced to deal with the consequences of his previous actions.
Maybe that's what the show's going to do. Actually, it's very possible, because in the game, the way it plays out is there's like a zombie attack, and that's what brings them together. But maybe it's something different. Maybe like they need to figure out how to infiltrate the town, and so they're like, "Hey, we will pretend to be
them
refugees."
Getting into the town. That makes that would be so different, but also still like that would be different in a wholly.
Yeah.
That sounds really interesting. I hope that's where the show goes.
Yeah.
That's my gut. I think it's a little bit of both. They're trying to get in. Joel's on patrol. Whatever. For some reason, he's out. He finds these people. He saves them. He brings them back. And maybe even they're like, "We don't need to go back with you." And he's like, no. And it's like he's grown.
Yeah.
And that's why it's another real kneecap. But
that's why you never take in people who need help. That's
Thank
the lesson.
you.
That's the lesson.
I can't be responsible for other people's emotional states, David.
Yeah.
The other really big change, and it's not from, I mean, I guess it is a change from the game, but it doesn't really exist in the game, and it's teased as a big plot point for the show, is the cordyceps in the pipe.
Yeah.
Like their town in episode 1 is hinted at it's unsafe. We see the scene of the stalker, when she's fighting Ellie, and she had, we again are reminded of like they can sense through this thing as it comes out of, I think it's like the nose hole.
Yeah.
The ghoul, the Fallout 76 ghoul nose hole.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it senses around. And then we see that same thing come out of the pipe where they're working on this house. That is another time bomb, right? So we have this external threat of Abby and her crew that we are told about. And now we have this, we're told the wall is safe, and we have this internal threat inside their safety. And those working together is very different than what's ever present in the game for Jackson.
Well, they call a mass of infected a horde, right, in The Last of Us. And I think there's a reference to a horde in the first. And like, so it'd be very easy to imagine like the what gets Joel and Abby together is running from like a horde-like incident. You could imagine there's a blizzard, there's a horde that gets the two of them to intersect, and instead of fleeing to the Firefly cabin,
right,
they flee to Jackson.
They go to Jackson, and that would be an interesting dynamic potentially. Yeah. Woo.
Look at us, Craig mazing it up right now. We're just breaking story.
That actually brings up the other thing, which is that they talk about how smart some of the clickers are. That's not in the game as far as I recall, right? There's different types of clickers in the game. There's like bloaters and other, but they're concerned about how smart these clickers are getting. I'm curious if that's going anywhere, right? Like that's not a dynamic in the game at all. So yeah, interesting openings for new narrative possibilities. We'll see if it goes anywhere.
Also, there's potentially 30 more characters we have to meet.
Yeah, depending on how much of the Seattle,
deviates.
how much of the Seattle stuff do we like? I know, like, there's been casting for major characters from the Seattle stuff, which is broadly stuff that happens in the second half of the game. How much do they forward that stuff this season, or it's just seeded? I have no idea.
Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.